Welcome back, listeners, to the Brighter Side of Blue, our worldwide podcast. I'm Danny.
I'm Tommy.
I'm JJ.
Who's the guy over here to the right?
I don't know. I never met him.
Greg Columbo.
I'm here.
The man.
Our first podcast from our brand new studios.
He's our new rent man.
He's our new. Welcome our landlord.
I hope he never regrets it.
He will.
Because we're never leaving.
Never.
We're squattering. We're squatters.
Squatters.
We're back. He's getting nervous now.
Hey, seriously, look at the digs we have now. We're actually moving on up like the Jeffersons. We have a Columbo's Cafe and Tavern provided us a beautiful studio. Greg worked hard at sprucing it up for us, and it's awesome.
Unbelievable.
And thank you. We are back in our house, right, Tommy?
Damn right.
Glad to have you guys.
Yeah, no, thank you. It means
awesome.
means the world to us. And
One of the things when Greg and us were talking about sponsoring, and it's not so much a sponsorship. We'd like to call it more of a partnership. And Greg really got excited about it. And he's really let us know exactly, or let us know that he'll whatever we need here. We got some designs coming. He's got ideas, and we really want to make this just a different, make it another step.
yeah, a step in the
down
right
the road,
direction.
we're going to get some people in here to watch us. If you guys want to come down and join the show, ask questions. It's really going to be fun, and we got some neat things coming up. So.
Well,
And Greg, thank you so much.
Thanks for the
Appreciate
opportunity.
You're welcome. I mean, I'm a listener. It took me a little bit to tune in, but once I got in, I whipped through 23 episodes in no time. Well, 24 now.
What hooked you?
Me?
Producer
me?
John.
Oh.
No doubt about it.
There we go.
Son of a bitch.
Hey, does Filoni's have room for us? We're going up the street.
I'm
Hey, I know
staying here.
Vic well.
Producer John gets more accolades.
That's all I ever
that's all
hear.
we hear is producer John. When he talks, everybody listens. Well, no shit. He only talks like 8 seconds a show.
It must
and
be
then,
effective.
Thank you,
and then,
Greg.
and then
Quality-
he knows what
quality
we're going
ones.
to talk about, too.
Oh,
So he
jeez.
cheats.
And
Seriously?
Then he's got those one-liners in his pocket.
Little zings.
Yeah. Gets every one of us.
You guys make it easy.
Anyway, well, thank you very much, Greg. But Greg's also a good businessman. I mean, he waited until number one, he heard all our episodes, but he also waited until we're approaching 4 million views,
It's unbelievable.
and then he figured that we might be somewhat legit, and we're gonna make it worth his while. I hope as we climb to the blue waves coming across the country, Greg.
Well, it certainly is. And how many countries, Dan?
All of them? No.
He said you.
Not all of them. No.
You know where our new one came from? Switzerland. We got that.
Who is it?
I don't know.
Who's
Right.
our listener?
Roger Federer.
Oh, yeah. He is from Switzerland.
How do you? Oh, that's right. We can't fact check with producer John. I'm going to call bullshit on that he's from Switzerland.
I don't know. I made that up. Is he?
I think he is.
I think he might be.
Hey,
Is he
producer
sweet?
John,
you bet-
has Romania
Huggy,
chimed
check
in?
that out.
Has Nadia called you?
Is
She's en
Roger
route.
Federer from
She missed her. She
Switzerland?
missed her connecting
Where's he-
flight here.
where's he
She would have
from?
been here tonight.
Yeah. So did you know this, Greg? We have a listener in Romania. It's Nadia Komanic.
Oh, yeah. I listened last week. Heard
Yeah.
it all.
Yeah, she's a listener, big time.
JJ
listener.
thinks she looks better now than she ever.
Dude, you are a listener. She does look good.
I don't like you. Creepy the way you said that, dude.
What?
The way you do. No, she does look good. You just look creeper. A little creepy.
No, I said you do listen.
Oh,
I said
I
you
do.
do listen. He listened. No, I didn't say. But anyway, maybe.
And then he said,
But Roger Federer is from.
Yeah, exactly.
We just got back. Huggy,
Huggy?
just checked it out. He's from Switzerland.
Uh-oh.
So Roger's
Look
on
at that.
board.
JJ just flinging off a Switzerland famous
Well, Huggy
person.
got here, and Huggy's
You think Huggy gave him a
Huggy's our
clue?
go-to guy.
He's.
He is the
We
go-to
want
guy.
to talk. I don't want to talk about. Roger
You know,
Federer.
so this week.
Why don't
it's-
you want to talk about Roger Federer?
I just think he's kind of soft.
How come?
He's great. I mean, great tennis player, good dude. but-
Elaborate.
Yeah,
No, I
based
just
on
Please
what?
elaborate.
I felt sorry for him once when a fan jumped the crowd. Some dude jumped into on the court, and he kind of cowered like a coward. That's all I'll
Nice.
say. And he had a racket in his hand. He should have hit him with the racket, but he just
Right over the fucking head.
right. He just, I mean,
that's when you
he
can
just
use the
looked
up bomb,
soft, dude.
'cause
I'm
if
like,
somebody's
wow, this
attacking
guy
you with
is
Yeah,
a
you
so
say whatever
soft.
you want.
Right.
I mean, he could have easily hit the guy with the defended himself, but he cowered like a little kid.
All right.
I think you're being a little hard on him.
So
I
you're
am.
thinking
He's
he's
a great
not the
tennis
listener
player.
then?
I doubt.
I don't know that anybody
he
would listen
well,
to
if he
us.
was, he's not now.
Hey, it's tennis. It's not the UFC.
That's true.
okay.
That's true.
All
He's a
right.
great tennis player. Great. It seems like a great family man. Great guy. But let's move on from Roger.
Okay. All right.
Nice recovery.
No, just a quick note on Roger.
You know,
JJ
so
thinks he's soft.
as we escalate
Definitely soft.
through the podcasts and our stock rises, we now have a new studio, thanks to Greg. And we're about to have the Dean of Web Pages, Professor Rick, on board. But he's been a little more elusive than I thought he would be. He's got some strange demands before he jumps all the way on board. Yeah.
Yeah.
He wants consistent foot massages before he comes on from producer John.
Oh yeah.
That's
See?
really creepy.
Yep. Take the accolades with that.
If I get a producer John merch page out of it, I'll do it.
This is close the deal then.
It's
This
all
is
about the
huge.
clicks. It's all about the clicks.
It won't be a long foot massage.
All right, well then that's good though. Hey, Greg, I don't know if you said you listened to the last show, and there's a terrifying event that's about to fall upon St. Louis.
Ooh, the cicadas.
Yeah, the cicadas. And now the little prima donna bastards, they're not here yet because the soil's not 64 degrees yet, but they are in a certain city in Illinois.
Ooh, they've made it.
Yeah.
They're getting close.
Well, it hits 64
Hey,
degrees.
Coming up from the
hey,
south.
let's talk about it when they get here.
Oh, you're going to talk about them. Hey, listen, the news thing today,
Dude, we're going to go back to cicadas again.
not
Jesus.
for long, JJ. But listen, this is science. You also had a problem with the eclipse.
Oh, eclipse is cool. But
Okay, so the last time, JJ,
brighter
this is going to
side
make
of
you
blue.
smarter.
Brighter side of blue.
Okay, but it's also
Go ahead with the
this
cicadas.
Go
I
ahead.
want to hear about
Finish
cicadas.
Well,
He's
listen to me.
obsessed with them. Go
Well,
ahead.
I am obsessed. A trillion
He
of
keeps
anything.
fucking around. We'll start our square pie thing.
No, yeah, I won't do that.
No,
JJ.
no way. No way. Stop it.
Listen to me, JJ. The 13-year brood and the 17-year brood
I
are
heard.
upon us.
I heard.
The last time these two particular broods came at the same time, do you know who the president of the United States was?
Washington.
Very good, Thomas Jefferson. That's how
Damn near.
this doesn't happen all the
JJ.
time.
That's a story.
It was very, very, very.
Close.
Jefferson will be the next guest.
And he hated the little bastards too. And it's going to be like 5 chainsaws in your yard, Greg, at the same
and I call
for 30
bullshit on
days.
that.
I'm looking
I call
forward to it.
bullshit on that. Chainsaws are loud.
Producer John's
All
a
right.
big
We're gonna
fan.
find out,
Really?
ain't we?
Yeah, we're about to find out.
Well, not Tommy. He sprayed his yard.
with ice.
With
no,
ice.
Yeah, no, yeah, he's doing blocks.
I
He's
spent a lot.
Jack,
On my way home every day, I stop by that ice thing.
Cut
Just
it,
fill
Jack.
the back of the just fill the back of the car, and I get home, and they're like, "What's this crazy bastard doing?"
he's avoiding the cicadas. Cicada,
It
cicada.
only sound like 3 chainsaws in my backyard.
That's pretty good.
I saw a horn violation today, by the way.
How bad was it?
It was. So I'm waiting to go straight, and then to the left of me is somebody making a left turn. They're in the left turn lane, and we're both 4 deep, good 4 deep. And then the left turn signal, which the lanes he's in, it turns green.
For the left arrow.
Right, and then that one car that was going through the yellow, comes zooming around, and it turns green, but the front guy goes, sees the guy running the red light, slows down, lets the nut go, and pulls off. But the guy 4 deep, he wasn't having it. He just laid on the horn.
I like
Angry.
him.
Laid on the horn. You
I
can't
like
do
him.
that.
I like him.
That's a horn violation.
It
dude.
is.
You're
I
4
give
deep. You
it's-
don't mean nothing.
4
No.
deep, you just shut up.
But
You
I was actually involved in the angry horn today.
Oh.
It wasn't me, but they were mad at me. We were getting ready to do an operation.
So you got one?
Yeah. No, I got a mad horn at me. So I'm in a hurry in my police car, trying to go through, catch up to my guys. We're doing this. Something was going on with us. My guys were doing something. So I pull up. I'm going a little too fast for my stop sign. They didn't have a stop sign. So I come flying in. I hit my brakes the last minute. And I kind of rolled a little bit into the intersection. But I definitely wasn't going to have an accident. She stopped. I looked at her. She rolled through. As she's halfway through, she stares at me and lays on the horn. And gave me a
That's
nasty
an
look.
antagonistic horn.
I mean,
That is.
the whole horn play was over. I stopped, and she should just waved at me,
Right.
gave me the finger. She looked at me, and I think I started laughing.
Right.
I was
Now,
like,
That's what we've done to you. Before, you might have laid on the horn
Yeah,
back.
exactly.
No, it was
I
my
think
fault.
you're
I was at
learning.
fault. So I was like, sorry,
I think you're learning.
but she was so
Aggressive.
wrong. Yeah, it was already over. I gave the old like, hey, I'm sorry, my
Right.
fault.
See?
And she gave me this angry horn.
Yep.
I think
I like
she-
that.
You did a
JJ
great
just-
job. You followed all the rules on that one, JJ.
Well,
He followed all. You gave her the wave.
and that was my fault. I claimed it.
All right.
JJ keeps creating content.
He is a content creator.
Man.
yeah, and you know what? I don't know. Is it time?
Is it?
Sure.
Well, I'm so paranoid because last week's was
dude.
was horrible.
Oh, the Zen.
Yeah, and last week there was a poor effort, but
Well, it has
Let's
has
just
something
take
to
it
do
down a
with my
breath.
anger and driving. My boss, Joe Marisi, we grew up in an
Uh-oh.
apartment together. He goes, I got a Zen for you. So he sent me the Zen. You will not be punished for your anger. You will be punished by your anger. That's a Buddha.
All right.
say it again.
You will not be punished for your anger. You will be punished by your anger.
I like it.
Don't be running around mad at everything.
This is your biggest point.
Yeah, I'm just.
Why-
I've
why is
told
everybody
everybody.
so
Why
mad?
everybody so mad? Stop being mad.
So
That's
JJ
a great. That's a
Joe's
great one, JJ.
Joe's a listener, and he said this is perfect for you, your anger issues. So I don't have anger issues, but sometimes driving can.
Brings out the
set you
best
off.
in you.
All right.
Zipper merges always get them angry.
That still gets them.
I'm with JJ on the zipper merge.
Thank you.
Okay,
I'm
it's
sorry.
a law. You
Thank
can't
you.
go. You
Thank
can't
you.
just be with JJ. It's the
Oh,
law.
you
I'm
can't
with
twi-
him.
Give me a fifth.
Oh, jeez.
Thanks,
The
buddy.
old fist bump. All right.
But anyway.
Zipper merge.
Oh, hey.
So
that was-
producer
hey,
John's
wait,
his favorite,
I'm
and then
not-
JJ's his second favorite.
I got-
me and Danny just
Hey.
dragging up the rear.
Well, it was
Sorry, I still got to say who that was for. Who sponsored that?
Oh, okay.
Ed Mess Play.
Oh, this is his last sponsorship.
No, this is number 8, I believe.
Okay.
All right.
He had a coupon or some shit, didn't he? Because he's
He deserved it after
Yeah,
last
that
week.
last one.
Yeah.
We totally give him an extra one.
okay.
But
All
he's
right.
sponsored by
Gotcha.
Ed Mess Play, American Republic Insurance, Medicare, health insurance. He's expert, 25 years. And Ed, just saw on my Facebook, he is in, as we speak right now, he is in Hawaii for getting an award for being the top 3. I think he's number 3 in the whole company is for his.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
sales.
you know what the rest of that is? He was number 10 until he sponsored us.
That's right.
Exactly.
And we moved him all
So-
up to number 3.
well, I told-
So
Without
when
question.
he
Actually-
renews, we'll have him at number 1.
Well,
Trust me.
I got a correction on that because he won that for 2023.
Okay.
So we probably didn't have anything to do with that one.
Producer John doesn't allow any fact checking.
But he will be
It
number
was
1.
definitely us.
It was 100% us.
He'll be number 1 next year. And
Yeah.
to get a hold of him, it's 636-240-8530.
Yep.
Nice. While we're in a Zenish mood, don't you have a good compassionate police story to tell us?
I do if we turn the music off, maybe.
No, I kind of like the music. It's kind of.
No, we're still in the Zen moment.
All right, let's wait. Let me know when the Zen moment's over. But I think that was a good one. And
It's not going to be over.
It's never going to be over. Well, go ahead with it.
no. All right. Well, I was going to piggyback Joe Speece last week. Told a story about Lowe, and that was a good story. It was up and down. Ended up being a sad ending. I have
So you're
one-
going to give us a happy ending.
Here we go with the happy ending.
Again?
Boy.
Second time. If you
Here we
listen to
go.
the show, it's inside joke. If you don't watch, go back and watch other episodes. But yeah, so when I was a young policeman, I had like 2 years on. And actually my first training officer, John Hyla, and he said, you got to learn, and 8th District is real small. You got to know your area, know every player, know all the people in the district. So I did, and Jerry Lashock kind of emphasized that too. You know, you got to know the names, know all the players of the drug sets and the different sets. So I knew everybody. It's like a little over 2 years on, but I knew all the players. And I'd stop and talk to some of them. But the one block that I made the most arrests on was the 4400 block of Greer. I knew all those kids. They were some hardcore little guys. So after school every day, a lot of them would hang out on Labadie and Newstead, which is one block down. There's a little liquor store there. If you guys remember, Gloria Thomas, Joe Thomas is retired 20-year guy.
Yep.
They own this little liquor store. You go in this little vestibule. You have like windows. They open the little windows, and that's where you do your buy. Anyway, they didn't like became good friends with them, and they didn't want people standing in their corner. So I'd always make sure these young kids didn't stand. They could stand across the street, but not loiter in front of their place. So anyway, I'd go by. There's always some kids after school, and I'd sit and talk to them. A couple of them were thugs. I don't even call thugs, but guys I'd arrested for drugs as juveniles and adults. There's a group of them. One of the kids there was just different from the rest. He'd never been arrested. I never saw him only after school for like an hour. Just a real personable kid. even the guys that were slinging dope liked him. You could tell he could hold court. And he was just a funny kid. So, and even the Thomases really liked him. He'd go in that, and they'd say he'd be real personable to him. But anyway, so I think he's just a great kid. Haven't seen him, never seen him in the after school, never pulled him over at night, never saw him other than after school. So one morning, summer's here, and just got on the street, getting my coffee. I'm driving down Natural Bridge, and the call comes out for a Frito-Lay truck that was stolen. Frito-Lay truck. They kind of stick out, right? So I make a right turn on to Newstead. I'm driving down. Sure enough, this Frito-Lay truck is driving towards me. I'm thinking, oh, crap, here's the Frito-Lay truck. So I slow down as I'm looking at, make eye contact with them. Why is laughing? But we make eye contact with this kid that I really liked, and he was like the rest of them. He was never in trouble. His eyes are big as saucers, and he looks at me like, oh, crap.
He's driving the truck?
He's driving the truck. So I go down. I'm like disappointed, like a father and a son. I mean, I felt like, damn, this kid. I mean, he's better than the rest. He's not going to be in trouble. So I bust a U-turn slowly, and I turn around. The truck makes a right turn on Ashland, which I know this area is like the back of my hand. So I kind of go down there, make a right on Ashland. I don't see him. I look down the alley, and the truck's sitting in a vacant lot, and I go up there, and it's gone. All the Frito, all the stuff's gone, dude. It's
Chips
nothing.
are all
right.
gone?
Chips are all
Yeah,
gone. It's
right.
just a vacant, and he's gone. So I got to recovered this Frito-Lay truck. Empty. But I could put a warrant out for him for tampering first. I knew who he was. I knew his name. So I'm like, I ain't doing it. This kid, for some reason, I wasn't just going to do it. Just wasn't. My gut told me, don't give this kid, don't put a warrant out for him. So I don't. I recover it. I'm talking years later. I don't even know how many years later. 6, 7 years later. He's well out of high school, probably out of college. I go to court, and I'm walking. I always remember the old courthouse. I would come in off of like 11th Street, like where the policemen kind of come in, and you walk in the middle, and in the middle is where the main entrance is, and there's a desk there with metal detectors where everybody goes through. As I'm walking through, this kid just gets done going through the metal detector. He's putting his things in his pocket. It's the kid. It's the guy, the young man.
It's Frito-Lay.
It's a Frito-Lay guy. And I'm like, holy crap. He looks at me, smiles, and waves to me. He's in a nice suit. And I walk up to him. I said, hey. I go, what's going on? He goes, hey, man, how you been? I go, good. I said, man, what are you, on trial or something? And I don't know why it made me say trial or whatever. I said something like to the effect that, is he in trouble? He goes, no. He goes, no, I'm not in trouble. I'm a probation and parole officer. One of my officers one of my guys has a probation hearing, and I'm here to represent him. I'm like, you got to be kidding me, dude.
That's
So
That's great.
Yeah, but then I said, and I even said it. When I started laughing, I go, man, that's awesome. I go, that's a good thing I never put you out wanted for stealing that Fritos truck. And he started laughing. He goes, man, I was so scared. He goes, you never saw me back on that corner
Well,
again.
you weren't 100% sure it was him.
No, I was 100%. No, I was 100%
He's
sure. And you know what? I found out later from the kids on the street. All he wanted to do, he didn't steal the truck. He didn't take all the chips out. All he wanted to do when they brought this truck around, he goes, hey man, I like to drive it. So they let him. They all said, have at it, brother. So he just jumped in and wanted to drive a Frito-Lay's truck. Drives down and sees me, of all people. He's probably like the last person he wanted to see. So I never put it. And I'm glad I did.
The reason I started laughing when you were talking about the Frito-Lay truck, because I was thinking the only person. Could you imagine if you were high? That would be a good truck to steal.
Hostess.
That'd be a great
I think
truck,
Hostess
man.
would be better.
Doritos for which one?
Hostess pies and shit.
Oh yeah.
That's a good question.
Hostess square pies.
If you were really high, what truck would you steal?
But that's that was my story, and I'm proud of that kid.
That's awesome.
That's
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I like to go on record as saying that was really cool. You knew he was a good kid at heart. Why complicate his life? You know, you scared the shit out of him, so that was probably enough right there for the rest of his
Scared him
life.
straight.
But my gut was that he didn't steal. I knew that he didn't steal that truck.
Right.
That was not in that kid. But I could see he'd want to drive it. I mean, kind of cool.
Yeah.
And it was early morning on like a Friday morning. Who's gonna think he's not gonna see anybody?
I mean, but did you think about all the victims of the people that didn't get their chips that day? Do you care about that?
No, but I asked him if he'd do a donation for that, and bring Doritos to everybody in the neighborhood.
Because he had them in his garage.
I always thought a cement truck would be cement trucks. You ever? I'd like to drive a cement truck. And then instead of cement, you put like gin and tonic in the back, and then take it to a tailgate party and just have that shit pour out.
It'd be well mixed.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Keep
better
it
be-
rolling.
Yeah.
I
Put
like
a little
that.
refrigeration element in there. I got ideas, man.
You do.
That's
Producer John,
Yes.
Are you sitting on any
You gotta be.
newsroom info over there?
I am. And it's not news. It's from the archives. It's from back in the day. Last week my story was murder, meth, and Bigfoot.
Yes.
You can't beat that.
This week is obsession, bullets, and baseball.
Uh-oh.
So
John,
here's where I'm
is
going.
anybody getting their nuts blown off on this one?
Well, no, a little bit higher, but all right. Here's the story. This is from the 1940s. 1941, a young first baseman was brought up by the Chicago Cubs. 1942, he was in the minors the whole year, but he missed 1943, 1944, 1945. How come, Greg?
Ooh, the war.
World War II. Correct.
Holy cow!
That's why he's the boss.
show.
I was so confused.
Way too
I'm
smart
glad
to
he
be on
didn't say
the
JJ. I'd be like, I don't know.
I had
fucking
no
idea.
idea. Greg pulled that shit up quick.
But it
Okay.
makes sense.
All right.
Well,
There goes producer John sucking up again.
yeah.
I'm
Do you
super
two want
impressed
us
that
to
Greg just
leave?
nailed it right away. So, the guy's name was Eddie Watkins. He was a first baseman, left-handed hitter.
Oh, Eddie?
Yeah, Eddie. Yeah, I remember him. So anyway, Eddie was in the Army, and he ended up over in the Philippines for 3 years. He missed 3 seasons. While he was there, he won 4 Bronze Stars for heroism, including a deal where one of his fellow soldiers was shot and pinned down, and he jumped out of his foxhole and went up. Not only drug him out of harm's way, but he had safety pins on him and held the guy together enough to get him to the, to save his life. To
Wow.
get him to the tent or whatever. So,
Eddie.
so anyway, so Eddie had
The
those
greatest,
good years.
the greatest generation.
Yeah.
So anyway, so he comes back for the 1946 season, and he played for the Cubs for 3 more years. But during the 46 season, a 16-year-old Chicago girl named Ruth Ann Steinhagen went to a game with her family or whatever, and she fell in love with him. She became infatuated with him. So for 3 years, she went to as many games as she could, and she just loved Eddie. But apparently that was enough. But during the off season, after the 48 season, Eddie got traded to the Phillies. So Ruth Ann was destroyed. So she
I can feel it.
so anyway,
story.
he's traded away. Well, the Phillies come back through town in Chicago, the next season in 49.
Uh-oh.
Well, she books a room for 3 nights in the same hotel that the Phillies were
team's
staying
in.
at, called
Shit's about to
the Edgewater Beach Hotel, which was up on Lake Michigan, up on the north side of Chicago. So on June 14th, she attended the game, and that night when she came back to the hotel, she went up to the bellhop and gave him a note saying, hey, Mr. Watkins, I need to talk to you. This is a very important issue, and I'm leaving soon. I need to talk to you right away. So the bellboy delivers it. Later that night, Eddie goes up to her room, and he knocks on the door, and she greeted him and said, "For 2 years, you've been bothering me. Now you're going to die." And she pulled out a .22 caliber rifle and shot him in the chest.
What the heck?
Why?
What?
That was
Yep.
a turn.
Poor
Yeah.
Eddie.
So
It's like the movie The
now,
Natural.
luckily, the bullet missed his heart, but hit him in the lung. So she went over to the phone and called the front desk and said, "Hey, I just shot
Eddie.
this guy." Yeah.
E-dub.
She turned herself in, and so anyway, Eddie got rushed off. They locked her up. So she was like 19 by now. This was like 3 years after he. So Eddie never pressed charges against her. I guess he felt sorry for her, and but a criminal court judge, reviewed the case and said, "Well, she's insane. She needs to." So they locked her up for 3 years in a mental institution in Illinois. But then after that, she got out, and she lived to be like 80-something years old, 83 years old. But she was like a recluse the rest of her life. She never, ever left the house hardly. But Eddie returned. He missed the rest of that season, but he returned for the 1950 season and played till 1955. He was a career 285 hitter, played over 1,100 games, played in 2 All-Star games and World Series. So anyway, the part like what JJ just said, it's believed that this was the inspiration for the novel, later the movie, The Natural.
Oh, wow.
And because
Okay.
he was a left-handed hitter, he was a good-looking
Oh,
guy.
yeah.
And he, in the movie, he was shot by the woman.
So
Wonder Bat.
All right.
Yeah, Wonder
So based on a true story.
Wonder Boy.
Wonder
Yeah.
Boy, yeah.
So
Now, so she was crazy.
she was crazy.
Just for 3 years, though.
yeah, she was just a big fan.
Oh,
That
man.
was it. But Eddie passed away in the 70s. He died young. He after baseball, he didn't coach or anything after that. He worked at like a furniture store or something after that. But
Holy cow.
Eddie.
that's a true crime story
Eddie.
and the inspiration
It's
for
Eddie. It's a natural.
Daddy.
a book. and
Cheers,
movie.
Daddy.
That's a good one, John. That is a good one.
A little depressing.
Oh, it's
It's a
also
little
I
depressing.
wanted meth.
According-
There's no meth in there. I
Yeah,
need some
we'll
more
never get the
meth.
clicks.
we don't know. We
There
don't
was
know.
no murder.
No,
Oh,
she.
here it
she was
says
she was
Ruth
big
Ann
in
was
meth.
methed out all
Yes.
the time.
Big meth head. Big meth head.
Yeah, she was methed out
That
all
was,
the freaking
that was
time.
an interesting story.
All the listeners noticed that we've had Greg Columbo on the entire
Right.
time.
We need
The Columbo's Tavern was built in 41. What was it built as?
As a tavern. It was Joya's Tavern from 41 to 51. Mike Joya married my grandfather and his sister. And
Joyous
so,
hot salami.
distant cousins to the
Okay.
same,
Oh, wow.
but yes,
Alright.
the same
Alright.
family.
I had to throw
Wow.
that in.
St. Louis thing.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, didn't marry Grandpa Mike.
No. Mike Joya married Antoinette Columbo,
Got you.
and that's how that connection
Alright.
started. So he ran it from 41 to 51, and then Uncle Tony and Grandpa Mike took over in 51 and ran it all the way till 91, I think, is when Uncle Tony retired, and myself and my father started back in, or
Yeah.
started in.
Yeah, and I was coming before that.
You were.
I was coming when Grandpa Mike was here, and then I was in the Vice Division undercover, and
Yep.
I worked with producer John before he was on the job because he was working with the Cap in liquor control, and God bless Roland Fote. He was Miles.
Come on now.
And Roland Fote,
Legendary people
DeBerg
right there.
graduate with me and whatever. Well, we used to come up here and hang with Grandpa Mike, and then I'd give him a ride home to Afton and play poker. And so you really owe us this sponsorship because all the money that your
partnership,
grandpa,
Dan.
all the all the
partnership,
money
Dan.
Grandpa Columbo took from me. Come on,
Oh, I believe he took it from you too.
he did. Oh no,
On the days he didn't, he was just being nice.
Well, he was cooling him. He was make sure he keeps him interested.
yeah.
No, it was neat to watch Greg because when we first started coming in here, it looked nothing like it looks now, and I think Greg and Ryan and they're
Modernized
being
it.
a lot younger than their father, who was just fine doing the way things were going because it was going great.
Yep.
And why make changes? But Greg and Ryan came in and they made it. I mean, the kitchen is great here. The food is excellent. The waitresses are awesome, and I got a good quick story about the waitresses. So as everybody knows, we used to come in here a lot, and
Off duty.
off duty after, and then a lot of times it was after a big incident.
Yep.
Whether no matter what it was, whether it was a good seizure, a good arrest,
People
whatever
just
it was.
headed here.
Right. Everybody would just come here. So there was a girl, and her name was Candace, and it was her first day ever working, and
In
we
life
all
or
come-
just at the bar?
Yeah, just in general, working here.
Okay. All right.
And we all roll in, and we roll in like 25 strong, and just line up the tables. Middle of it's 3 o'clock, whatever it was, and everybody throws in like $20-$30. And everybody just leaves it on the table, and she goes and gets her bill, and Greg had always charged us, like $8 a bucket or $10. It wasn't the normal price, but we paid. But everybody left so much money that our money on the pot way overshot the bill. So, and everybody's gone. So you're like, what do you do? You don't want to take your buddy's money and just put it in your pocket. So she would, and then I was one of the last ones there. Like
Shocker.
I usually am.
That's a shock.
And so I was like, well, screw it. This is her first night. She's gonna have a great first night. And I just gave her all the money. From that point on, when we walked through the door, and if Candace was working, she would fly over to the table and just wait on. And then she was great. And all the gals up here were great. And Greg hired, and the gals up here now, great gals.
I'm
But
going to
Greg-
tell. I'm going to tell the very first time I met Grandpa Mike Columbo. So my partner was Frank Cioric. I just got transferred to the 2nd District, and I was on the overlays watch. So I got in at 10 a.m. at roll call, and they put me with Frank Cioric to show me the ropes. I got transferred down from up north at the 8th District, and so after roll call, Frank Cioric goes, we get our stuff, get in the car, and he drives straight to Columbo's. We sit at the corner of the bar. It's 10:30 in the morning, and Frank goes, I always get my coffee here and start my shift. So I belly up to the bar, and Grandpa Columbo comes over and says, Frank says, this is Danny Howard. He's new to the district, this and that. He goes, what can I get you? I go, I'd just like to have a Diet Coke, please. He goes, okay. And he goes over and he grabs a shot glass and pours Jack Daniels in it, puts it right in front of me. He goes, have a shot. I go, oh, no, sir, I don't drink on duty. It's 10:30 in the morning, and it's 10:30 in the morning. I just no, sorry. He pushes it closer to me. He goes, take a shot. I'm like, sir, I really don't want to do it. I'm kind of been in trouble a lot already. And
I got suspended 3 times already.
I got 2 years on.
I go, it's just so early for me, and this and that. He pushes it closer. So I said, you know what? He's going to win this. So I grab it, and I'm going towards it, and he grabs it right out of my hand. He could see that I was going to do it. He grabbed it from my hand, gives me my Diet Coke. He goes, I can trust you.
You passed the test.
I passed his test, and then let me tell you something. He was talking about pro law enforcement. This place has been pro law enforcement since.
And one of the things, and over the years, again, we were in here a lot. I don't mean to bear it down, but one of the things we would do is that, because we never had a day that we were up here. It was just you never know when we were going to come up.
Yep.
But there was a group of people that were always up here on a Thursday, and are still up here on every Thursday. And it's a group of rugby guys.
St. Louis Bombers.
St. Louis Bombers.
They're still coming?
Yeah.
Every Thursday night.
Really?
Yeah.
And these guys, so you would think that young policemen boozing, rugby players boozing, that you would have, sooner or later you would have an incident. And over the years, as we kept going, and then these guys, these rugby guys that come here, are some of the nicest, they're just the nicest people.
Polite.
But
Gentlemen.
when they come in, I mean, they got black eyes, they got
Muddy.
cuts,
So they're not
muddy because they
sweaty.
practice right around
They're
the
not
corner.
like
of
Roger
everything,
Federer
correct?
then.
So
No,
Greg,
No Roger Federers in that group.
so I never knew
No
what
way.
I never knew why they would come here all the time, and it turns out that Greg used to. You and
Ryan.
Yeah, we
played,
both
right?
played for the Bombers for a little period thereafter. I mean, Ryan and I both played rugby in college. Ryan actually went over to Wales and played for about 6 months after college.
Wow.
And
so,
then
so he was better than you?
I would say so. Yes.
Oh, he just wanted to stay around.
Yeah. And then, so we started playing with them. Great group. The leadership, the older guys were fantastic. And I think they set the tone for that whole organization. And to this day, those guys, class people, I mean, they're vicious on the field, but they get into the pub and it's all that's left behind you.
And
They're
we would
loyal.
have
Just loyal.
between the two groups sometimes, between the policemen and we'd have the
Bombers.
whole.
Oh, you're
place.
filling the whole place.
Yeah.
And there was never any problems because there's a lot of alpha males involved in that, right?
No doubt.
And there was never any problems. And I always thought, and again, nobody knew that we were policemen when they come in because we were all, doing what everybody knew they were rugby players.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know what it is with rugby players, but when you walk in, the last person I want to mess with is a rugby group of people. And as long as they're nice, they're great. They've been, how long, Greg? 25 years? 25.
shoot.
40 years.
I mean, if I was playing for them back in the late 90s and early
35 years.
Every single Thursday. Not every other Thursday, not the third Thursday of the month. It's every Thursday they practice around the corner and they come here.
Yep.
That's cool.
Been a great
I always
relationship.
thought that was cool. And I always thought that it was cool that we got along with them so well.
Yeah. Greg, tell us, why is it that the Columbo family, going all the way back to your Uncle Tony and Grandpa Mike, have just had respect and a partnership with law enforcement?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, like, because you don't know exactly how that started.
Right.
Right. everybody from that era mostly is gone. But like a Frank Seork, who was a great man, right?
Yes.
Forever came in here and will still pop in once in a while throughout a year. But Uncle Tony had a son who became a police officer, who was actually out in San Jose, California, got up to captain and then retired. His son-in-law was a city policeman, Bob Marbs.
Oh, yeah.
Was on for 20 years and then went to WashU for 22, I think, after that on their security. Our Uncle Gus, Mike and Tony's brother, had a son, Don, who was a policeman, and I think he was a 2nd district sergeant. So he was in the district where the bar is located, right? From that point on, it was just a relation. You have all those relationships, and so you're bringing other policemen along. Like a Frank bringing you in, and then you bring in the next group. Let's go all the way back to Vice. A Stanley Marzuzewski, right? Or a Patty Toth. Manny.
Manny Santa Cruz.
Yep. Guys like that, and then it widens out, right? Great guys. The Columbo brothers, not related to us, but Mark and Mike. They started coming in the same way. Somebody, did Mike go to Vice?
He was with me in Vice, bro.
He came in, and then his brother Mark actually wrote me a speeding ticket when he was a Proby officer.
Proby. I like the way
And
you
the-
had it. I like
and
the way
then
you had
next-
the IE. Oh, Proby.
The next day, Frank Seork brought him in to introduce him to us, which I thought was pretty cool. And
Did he fix the ticket?
We can't talk about that, JJ.
No comment.
Come on.
But yeah, so and then Mark and I live in Sunset Hills. Mark moved out to Sunset Hills as a policeman, and so we, you develop another relationship there, and it just grew. Your guys' group,
Right.
You guys were all in detached units, having that freedom to kind of come around, and like you said, you didn't know when you were going to come in, but all of you guys were here, and that extended to all the other people you've talked about, Locke and
Well, I
X.
think Tom's your daughter Randy worked here.
Oh yeah.
She worked here, and
Martin.
it was one of them things. And a lot of and people will think that it's just when we come here, we didn't. When I was in those task force groups and those groups where we were doing investigations, when we come here, we would talk about those investigations a lot, and sometimes come up with some pretty good freaking ideas of how to solve some cases or how to move forward in some cases, and Columbo's was just always great to us, and I had my 40th birthday party here.
There's been
I mean, it's
promotion
just
parties here.
promotion,
Everybody's
right.
has their promotion parties
Your
here.
retirement party.
Retirement. That's exactly right. Retirement, promotion, and then unfortunately some
Suspension parties.
Dan
I think
parties.
we did have one.
A lot of those.
People didn't get fired party.
Unfortunately, we also have officers killed in the line of duty. We have the post-reception parties here. So
Right.
the Columbo family has been there for all of it. Supporters. I
Right.
feel like, you go up there behind the bar, there's pictures of some of our fallen officers.
Yep.
And it's just it's a special thing we have going. And that's going to segue me in before we wrap up. Hey, we can't have a pro law enforcement show, and our blue wave is definitely growing from worldwide, from east to west in the country. But hey, Charlotte Mecklenburg had a rough day the other day, and
Unbelievable.
JJ is going to bring a guy on. We're going to talk a little talk a little
Brett,
more about it
my old
down,
partner,
down the
Brett.
road.
Yep, Brad Owens is
Brad.
marshal.
Yeah.
One of my partners. My last two partners in mobile. One's a federal marshal, and the other's a DEH.
And he's going to give us a little insight on that.
Hopefully, yeah.
But we lost 4 officers.
And
I think he actually told me that was the biggest,
One-day loss.
most horrific loss in marshals history. Well, it wasn't all marshals. It was other.
yeah, if you look at that, that's a lot of the stuff you guys will hear about on the shows is these task force officers that are doing different things and working with different people. But a lot of those people that were, 3 of the people that were killed were part of the task forces.
Right, TFOs.
And they're called TFOs, and they run with the marshals, and just a horrific incident. And if I could just add, I don't like to get political or anything, but the fact that these guys, 4 police officers or 8 police officers are shot, 4 are killed, that made the news for 3, maybe 4 hours.
Right.
Yeah.
And the next day, there was never in any of the online media. I mean, this is 8 people were
It's already
shot.
out. It's already out of the news cycle. And
It's already out.
Now they're just talking about
Right.
the protests, the bullshit protests that are going on in these college campuses.
And
that's-
again, I
that's
don't
just
want to get
ridiculous.
too.
Yeah,
but this is ridiculous, man.
Right.
It's ridiculous. So my brother, and I'll make this quick. So my brother asked me, he's with a group of business owners of companies on a trip, and he said, "Hey, these guys love the podcast and they want more information about sponsorship. Can you just shoot me an email that sums up what you guys are doing?" So we're just talking about 8 officers shot, and it runs out of the news cycle pretty quickly. Well, my email was really quick, and it said, one of the things it said was, last year there was 396 officers in this country shot in the line of duty. 396, 49 killed. That's more than one officer every day. More than one officer a day is shot.
Unreal.
Do you ever hear about it? And I said,
no.
we're not, law enforcement is not villains, they're the heroes. And they don't get enough play time for the great things, all the stories we're talking about, all the relationships, all the things that law enforcement does. I said, so we are that mouthpiece, and that's what we're doing. My brother sent back, and he said, they're all interested, they'll be reaching out to you.
One of the
Because
things I
they're
want to add to
pro-law
that is that
enforcement.
I
could
love
you
it.
imagine if
Tide's
every,
turning, like you said.
Yeah, the blue
The
wave.
wi-
Yes.
It's changing
The blue
our
wave.
direction, no doubt about it.
It's going. The needle's twisting towards the where
Right.
it should be.
Right.
real quick, is that if could you imagine if every company that had, I don't know how many policemen are out there, hundreds of thousands, a company that had hundreds of thousands of people, and they only heard about the bad stuff that company did,
Right.
that those employees did. Can you imagine how the company wouldn't even be in business anymore?
No, nobody would invest in them.
So that's the only, and that's the one thing that just really irks me, is that the only thing that really gets any attention is the negative stuff about police officers, and we really want this thing to grow, and our listeners is just to tell people about the podcast. We try not to belabor you with police stories that are but we just try to spray the infield with funny stuff, some good stories which are coming up, But go ahead.
No, next show. Today, my guys had an operation. It was incredible, actually unbelievable case they did. I'm showing Huggy the pictures, and great seizure, great arrest. They'll never make the paper, but I'm going to brag about my guys next
You
week.
should.
Next week.
All right.
Next week.
Well, we got another partner though too along the way. Corby Campbell. You guys remember Corby?
Oh, God, yeah.
A retired police officer, did about 20 years on the police department. And Corby and his partner, Chris Saraceno, a legendary South Side family.
Another law enforcement supporting
Bartolino's,
family.
Chris's Pancakes. But they are in business together with a Campbell Security Group. And Danny, you've seen Campbell Security Group in your neighborhood, haven't you?
Our St. Louis Hills hired them to patrol the area, and I have blink cameras all over my house. And I'm telling you, every night, at least once, a lot of times twice, you see this car coming down with the lights on, and it just makes you feel so safe. And they're out there doing what they're paid to do,
Yep.
and they're doing it great.
So their company also, they're into just security solutions, not just throwing a guard up or throwing a guy driving around.
Right.
They do a lot of executive protection for asset protection, you would call it, all over the area. Dignitaries, all that.
Nadia
And then
Comaneci.
exactly. If she came into town, Corby'd have her.
Yep.
No doubt.
Well, I'm going to work for him if she does. Maybe.
So Corby, you got yourself a guy right there. But and then they can offer a solution too. So if you work for a company, somebody's threatening to kill somebody, you know how it is with the
HR
angry
matters.
employees. HR matters
Yeah.
that need some security. They just aren't going to throw a guard up. They're going to come in and give you some advice before you throw a guard up.
Assess
or if
it and
yeah,
give a
exactly,
solution.
Exactly.
And they do well.
I mean, Corby comes from the police family, right?
Oh, yeah.
His father, Ralph. Ralph was a legendary
Homicide
detective. And then Chris Saraceno, his partner, is, I think he's related to the Simons.
Yep.
Married
All
Sam.
comes full circle.
Exactly. But you can get a hold of Corby, and if you need some security advice, any kind of event you need, weddings, you have a wedding, Corby can help you out. But it's CampbellSecurityGroup.com. And the phone number is 314-499-1121. Corby Campbell, thank you.
Thank you, Corby. All right. It's the grassroots sponsorships that keep
Yep.
this show going, keep the blue wave going.
We are joined today by a friend of ours, Bill McDonough. And Bill was in Mobile with Jimmy. And before that, he came out of the police academy and met yours truly, me, in the 3rd District, 1990?
89.
Late 89? All right.
Early 89.
Early 89. That's right. I came out in 88. So both worked for a wonderful Sergeant Dave Lowell.
Yeah.
And then, so then Bill went from there to the 3rd District Bureau, correct?
Correct.
And then from there to where?
Mobile Reserve.
First of all, we want to thank Bill for coming in here and sitting with us for a couple hours as we're making this move that you guys heard about in the opening to Columbo's. Bill has volunteered to come in here and talk to us for a couple hours to knock out 2 shows so we could concentrate on our move to Columbo's. And he's really helped us, and that's awesome. And now we are going to talk about a case, and the suspect, his name is Billy Armentrout. And this is a Netflix case, and at the end we'll tell you about where you can find that, because we don't want you to turn this off and go find it and not listen to Bill tell the entire story. Because at Netflix, I watched it. They don't give you and Ruben enough time, man.
No.
They just shot through it.
They did.
Now we're gonna
actually
just like we
about the
always say,
murder.
we're gonna get some insight information on this. It's a disturbing case, but it's got some. And as everybody knows, we do kind of try to find the comedy in different things, and it does have some funny things that happen throughout it. We're sorry that somebody's life was lost during this, but it's an interesting case. Again, I talked to Bill at length in show prep, and he had me laughing pretty hard on some of the things that were going on. But so, Bill, tell us exactly how that's. So I'll just set up. Bill's at the time is in the 3rd District Bureau. From the last show, you know that was his second assignment, and he is riding with another long friend of mine and Bill's is Ruben Heyman. So take us back to the day that take us back to how this starts.
The St. Louis Police Department's kind of geared up to investigate specialty crimes like homicide, with its own homicide division, sex crimes, rape, sexual assault with the sex crimes unit, child abuse, same thing. And then everything else falls at the feet of the district detective. Used to be that you had to be a district detective for a while to go to homicide. That's not the case anymore.
We won't get into all that.
But back then it was, and that that was my aspirations always was to be in homicide. I got asked to go back to the bureau. I only had like 4.5 years on.
Golden child.
I was golden child, right? By Lieutenant Hobbs, who had taken over the bureau, and they put me with this great senior detective, Ruben Heyman. The NYPD Blue, the character Sipowicz.
Yep.
If you're familiar with that
Ruben.
guy.
Oh yeah.
That's my vision of Ruben. Unbelievable detective. He had I rode the housing projects before that. I had interest in all kinds of different things. I'd been in a 51 car, which is like a special car, with Tom Walsh. We both were, we both had aspirations.
Hold on a second. I got to interrupt on this one because Tom Walsh has just been mentioned, and one. Right. So Bill is for those that aren't watching the show, Bill is a very large man and is in powerlifting. And Walsh is also a very large individual. Tommy's about 6'6", 250. And Bill is 6'3", probably 250, 270 at the time. And these guys stayed in shape. They weren't they worked out all the time. And then when these two got, I always called, and they drove around in this little celebrity, the old celebrities. And every time I would look at them, I always think of the little engine that could, just going up a hill going, I think I can do it. I think I can do it. But anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt your story, but I had to throw that in about Walsh.
Yeah.
But you're in the bureau, got a bunch of awesome people riding around you, doing things, and then
I get put with this with this great senior guy, and we hit it off very well, and Ruben taught me a lot. Ruben walked through the back hallways of the courthouse and like walk into judges' chambers. It was crazy. I mean, I was just like, what's going on here? Just walk in with a search warrant. We wouldn't even go to the circuit attorney's office. It was unreal. I didn't know what was happening, but I knew I wanted to be like that. So that's my formative years as a detective was with Ruben for sure. And he taught me to always answer the phone when it rang because you never know what it's going to be. You'll always get that. He's my mentor for sure. The phone would ring and he'd be like, hey, 9 out of 10 times it's going to be someone in the 2nd district wanting to know who stole the barbecue, the lid off the barbecue pit, But that one time.
Are that leaving the scene?
That one time is going to be, hey, are you looking for so-and-so? He's hiding in my bathtub, and so I'd answer the phone all the time because I wanted the guy in the bathtub, I guess. But
better man than me.
Yeah. No, I was trying to soak up as much as I could. And another thing was when you saw Paulie Eckinger come walking into the bureau, Paulie was our missing persons investigator for the whole department, and he worked out of downtown. He also owned a tavern that was pretty cool to go to called Paulie's. But,
absolutely.
So that's
a
probably
couple incidents there.
That's probably a whole other story, right? So Paulie would walk in, and Paulie was a good investigator himself. And if he couldn't find somebody or was at a dead end, he was told to hand it over to us. So basically, he would get rid of the noise that was in there. If it was something that he felt had suspicious circumstances that needed to be investigated, then we would do it. At the time, we're getting each 7 felonies to investigate a day.
I remember those days in the bureau.
Right. So, he filtered that noise out on these missings. By the time they got to us, I guess if Paulie was bringing it in, it was kind of considered serious. So Ruben was like, we always want Paulie's stuff when he walks in. So he comes walking in on a Monday morning after he couldn't figure out this caper. He had called the reporting party who was the daughter of the person that was reported missing. So this Inez Natter's daughter, I forget her name, reported her mother missing. She spoke to her mother every day. Mother was 81 or 82 years old, lived in the 4200 block of Neosho, I believe, somewhere in I believe it was Neosho, 4200 block in Neosho. I don't remember the exact address. Talked to her mother every day. Probably went by her mother's house 2 or 3 times a week to see her, and she had not heard from her in a couple days, and reported her missing on a Friday. I believe it was on a Friday. So it goes through the weekend. Paulie can't figure it out. Calls the daughter back on Monday. Is like, I still haven't heard anything, and she has nowhere to go. She would not go anywhere. Oh, and my
talking about the mother had nowhere to go.
The
grandmother,
the
81-year-old lady.
Right.
Yep.
They did. So the police go over. She calls the police. They let them in. They do a cursory search. Unfortunately, they miss some stuff. They missed some stuff.
They dropped
Call it what you want.
They definitely dropped the ball.
Yeah.
When he just starts describing the scene, they missed the ball.
Yeah. So
that's
okay.
We
that's how the
mistakes
missing
happen.
Occurs. Yeah. I mean, I learned from it. She wasn't going to be saved. At that
nothing
point.
was going to change. Exactly.
We decided, call the daughter up and let's just go right in. We walk into the house. Everything kind of still sitting the way it was. One of the drawers in the dining room in the front area of the house was was still open. She's like, "This is where a checkbook's supposed to be. Checkbook's not there." And we said, "Okay." She's like, "This is her bedroom." Brings us into the bedroom. We're looking at the bedroom. We're taking everything in. Ruben kind of nods his head towards the wall. I look at the wall, and you can see specks of what appears to be blood. I take the daughter outside. Daughter's in her 60s, so I mean, she's not young by any stretch of the imagination. So I bring her outside, and I'm thinking, what do you say to somebody in that situation? But I need to go back inside because we don't know what's inside. And I just left Ruben in there, and I was like, hey, we're gonna call for another car to come here. Ruben had contacted homicide to come. And I said, there's a chance that this is going to be a long day for you, ma'am. And she said, I've been preparing myself for that, which was great because I didn't know how she was going to take that. But she took it well. And I went back in, and by then Ruben had picked up the mattress and saw that the whole bottom part of the mattress had been cut out. She had also mentioned that this wasn't the bedding that's typically on the bed, comforter. So, you can, I guess, you can guess here that the bed had been flipped over, the mattress had been flipped over, something happened on there, a big hole had been cut out of it, and then attempts to conceal it had happened. In the hallway, you could see what appeared to be smudge marks, same color and all that. They were faint, but they were still there. And then going towards the door, the basement door, you could see every other step had the same type of smudge on it. Going downstairs, so we, as gently as possible, straddle the smudge marks, walk downstairs, and you can smell, that distinct odor.
They've been dead for a hot minute odor.
For a few days. It's not terrible, but nonetheless, it's still very, very distinct. It was hot. Yeah, it was probably August.
That's bad.
I think. But once you've smelled that one time, it's just tattooed in your brain. So, anyway, we're looking.
I'm not down with that smell.
Yeah, it's bad.
I had it one time. Just got back on the elevator and left. I was riding with Lockenick. I did an internship down at Homicide. It was with Lockenick, Matt Hannewinkle, and Tom Carroll. And I was just like a fourth wheel. They got some kind of floater. They call them a floater.
Yeah.
And got off the elevator on the 11th floor at SLU. That smell was there. I just got on the elevator and went back down. I said, I'm only an intern here. There's no reason for me to take in all that smell. But that's just me. So, right. Go ahead.
I can see that, though.
No, everybody could see that. I was not down for that. I was not there to be a homicide detective. I was there to appease people.
What? So we're searching around. Ruben finds a steamer trunk, a large trunk. Let's it's 4 foot wide, 4 foot high, maybe 3 feet deep. Old steamer trunk with leather straps on it. Pulls it out, opens it up, reaches inside. He can feel a body. Something's wrapped up in bedding, but he can feel the clear outline of a body. He said he could feel the head. Closes the top of the trunk. Obviously, we have a homicide here. And we wait for homicide to show up. I had gone out by then and told the daughter that there's going to be some more cars coming here in a hurry, and that we probably found your mother inside the house, and then she proceeded to tell, and Ruben came out too, and she proceeded to tell us that her grandson had just gotten out of prison maybe 2 months earlier.
The deceased grandson.
That the grandmother was the only person in the family that would agree to accept him, which was a term of his parole, that a family member had to accept him. Nobody in his family would take him and allow him to live with them. I don't know if that's still the case. It seems like they just cut people loose now. maybe. But back then, I guess you had to have a family member agree to
Vouch for you.
Yeah. So, so grandmother's like, yeah, I'll take Billy, and so it's Charles Armentrout is the guy's name, the grandson, the third. His middle name's William. He goes by Billy, typically, and we wait for homicide to get there. Excuse me. Wait for homicide to get there, and Billy Qualls shows up as the homicide detective, Sergeant Billy Qualls, who's awesome.
Legend himself.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so was his dad, and with them is another
Here we go.
another person that's been on the show is Brian McGlynn as a detective, a young detective. Brian's got a few years on me and I'm young, I'm cutting my teeth still for definitely for something like this. For a homicide, we didn't investigate homicides. We would get information on homicides. We would go hunt guys wanted for homicides, but we didn't do scene investigations. Obviously, we didn't. This was a first for me, for sure. We had done some big cases, some very high profile cases, Ruben and myself. But this was the first one of these. And I knew Billy Qualls, I knew Brian McGlynn very well. They show up and it's on. Billy's like, you guys are with us the rest of the day. This was not Ruben's first rodeo by no stretch of the imagination. So I'm just trying to soak it all in and be an asset.
And I just want to set the scene. You guys were working days that day, which is 8 to 4.
Yeah.
Something like that. So this is a day. This kicks off during the day. And the reason I say that is because it takes a minute. So
yeah, so it's it's a full day. We're pretty quick on the hunt here for Charles Armentrout, Billy,
AKA Billy.
Right.
We'll refer to him as Billy hereafter.
Correct. So back then,
Here and after.
didn't have. I don't even know if they had. There definitely wasn't laptops. There was no computers in cars. There was no way to do any type of search. There's no if there's cell phones, we surely don't have one. We're probably calling we're either on a TAC channel or we're calling in from the house, after it's been cleared from a phone to try to get information on the whereabouts of this guy, get as much intel as we can on him to go hunt, when Billy Qualls says go get him. So we're waiting, we've got Eddie Pfeiffer, who was our guy that did that, and he was tremendous with the computer. He
So he would put you on addresses, and he was working the computer and finding everything he can out about Billy to give you guys clues where to go that you might find him.
Correct. So things like in the past, who'd he been arrested with? You could pretty easily tell that by getting in the report system. On an arrest, there'd be a complaint number, just like you would do it now. It was no different then. It was just a lot slower. And arrest records, I don't know if I want to go into all the tricks of the trade.
Yeah,
but
we realize he's an asshole.
But yeah, so
that's already been determined by him killing his grandmother.
Yeah, we immediately noticed that the checkbook's missing. So obviously, we feel that there's some financial element to this. We determined through the daughter that the bank that's involved, I think it's a Boatman's bank.
That's back in the day.
Yeah,
Boatman's.
so we drive to Boatman's and we come to learn that Inez Notter, the victim, has been in there complaining about her grandson trying to cash checks. They've been trying to get her to agree to press charges against him for forgery. She won't do it. I think she tells one of the tellers at some point at this now at this stage that she's scared of him. That what he'll do, and he's looking pretty good for this at this point. And
you think you got your suspect, right?
Full court press. We find out that he'd been to his aunt's house, Shirley Menendez, who had actually drove him up to cash one of the checks, unbeknownst to her, thinking that it was legitimate, that that Inez had gave it to her. She'd actually gone over and knocked on Inez's door. There was no answer. But she takes Billy up there. He steals her car when they get home.
Steals the aunt's car?
Steals the aunt's car.
So this guy's just a tremendous human being.
Oh, geez. He's in his 50s now. So,
That's all?
yeah.
All right.
Yeah, he's got some weather.
What year are we talking about? Just
93.
93?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So, Billy, you guys are just a step behind Billy. And Billy's on the run. Billy's an idiot.
Billy's running wild.
Billy's running wild. So, where do you find Billy?
Stole grandma's car.
Right.
So we're unpacking the associates along the line. We find out that he's with two very well known sisters, Bridget and Joseph. The
Josephine?
sisters. Joseph's. No, their last
The
name is
Josephs
Joseph.
was the last name was the Josephs. I thought you were trying to name a girl. I was trying to help you out with Josephine.
Right,
So the Joseph sisters,
Joseph sisters, who are
notorious streetwalkers.
Streetwalkers, but yes, they support that habit, their drug habit, from doing what streetwalkers do. So so one of them is again back to the importance of human intelligence, right? Confidential sources, all that stuff. Is that one of them has Ruben's phone number. We're still at work. We're through probably going on a second shift change. Right? We're sitting downtown at Homicide. Everyone's trying to figure out what we're going to do. Billy's chasing the crack monster hard. He's been awake for days. We're learning all this. We get a call into Homicide. Someone wants to talk to Ruben, and they say, hey, he's at Ricky Lacey's house down on Texas, so about the 3200 block of Texas. So out the door we go. So by that time, the Homicide supervisors had changed. McGlynn's still there with us, and we got a whole new Homicide group. And we all fly out the door and start heading down towards Texas, and it's not close. I mean, it's downtown to South St. Louis, but we get there as fast as we can. On the way, we'd say that we're going to take the back. In the Netflix series, I say that we called out the back because the bad guy always comes out the back.
I never rarely answers the door.
So they go knock on the front door. Homicide. We're in the back already, set up in a point of concealment, but still able to see the back very well. We don't know what's happening at the front of the house, but out the back window, crashing comes Billy Armentrout.
Yeah,
literally lands on the side, dives out the window.
Tuck and roll.
Kind of, yeah. He rolled kind of into me, and the fight was on. So it was.
He didn't want to go to jail.
Did not want to go to jail. So
I don't know how big Billy was, but if he thought that he was going to fight you and get away, he must. I think he might have lost.
I had control of him. Yes.
Okay, we'll leave it there.
And so we were able to get him in custody, get handcuffs put on him. We put him in the car. I get in the back seat with them. Ruben's driving. We call out that we're going to take him down to Homicide. They're going to stay at the house and process that. Homicide is. I'm sure they called ETU, all that stuff. We're just pulling away, and he's like, "Hey, I'll tell you guys anything you want to know about anything. Just let me smoke crack one more time." So,
So you're saying let him
put in
do
that situation, right? He's smoking some crack.
You got some on you, buddy?
No,
He actually told us in the house where to go find some
right.
crack.
He told him where to go get the crack. He goes, "You go give me the pipe and crack. I'll tell you anything you want."
Yeah, and I kind of made the statement that man, that's got you in this predicament right here so far. You're not going to be smoking any more crack tonight. Ruben had the wherewithal to put him, Mirandize him at that point because he figured the way this was starting. Before that even, he says, "Man, how much you bench? You are strong as hell," because of the fight that we had.
Right. Yeah, the dive through the window would indicate not only the dive through the window, may indicate to me that he's still on a tremendous amount of crack and that he doesn't need any more crack.
He did not want to go to jail. No. So we had a little tussle. And you know, whatever. He asked me how much I bench.
Right.
So which yeah, it was a lot at the time. So Ruben has the wherewithal to Mirandize him because he can tell this is probably going to start rolling here something's going to start happening. You know,
This
we're
crackhead's
not
gonna
just
say something.
transporting at this point. You know, he's in custody clearly, and we're probably going to be talking about some of the events that happened that day. So, no brainer. Miranda's issued, and he starts talking in the car a little bit. We get downtown. The story starts getting unpacked. Ricky Lacey, who he implements as the actual murderer, the story is that him and Ricky Lacey go to his grandma's house to get more money. They had been cashing checks. They get more money, and Ricky becomes enraged when Grandma says no, and starts to beat the grandma. Goes to another bedroom in the house, gets a souvenir baseball bat from like 1904. It was a
Real souvenir.
a real souvenir, yeah. And is beating her. He's beating her with the bat. And we haven't seen the body yet, by the way, either. So this is we're just getting this information.
So what he's explaining to you is actually what happened, but there was no Ricky
100%.
Lacey involved.
100%. So we have Ricky Lacey in the next room. Ricky Lacey's obviously been Mirandized, and he's being questioned. Ruben and me are remain a team, and you know, I don't. It's somewhat similar to TV, but it's there's all types of strategies when you're talking to someone that wants to talk. You stay with them as long as you can. You break. You give them stuff to drink. You keep talking to them and talking to them and talking to them. You'll switch up.
Give them crack.
You'll
Every once in a while, you throw them some crack.
that didn't happen, but
Just throwing it out there.
no crack. No
All
crack
right.
for Billy that day.
No crack for
No
Billy.
more crack.
All right, no more crack for Billy.
No, we were just
Right.
We were getting far enough
Right.
that we didn't need to
Introduce
promise
crack
and
just yet.
stuff like that,
We-
you
we-
know.
that's the last method used.
We weren't certain that we were going to get him to say he did it, but we were pretty confident that he was explaining what happened in
Right.
the event. And you know, I mean,
He was right on the
I've
money.
done this enough now, especially to know that that's a pretty good confession if that's all you end up with.
Right.
Obviously, you want the whole thing, but he's not coming off of that. He's putting it on Ricky. Ricky's in the next room. You know, we're bouncing back and forth at this point, probably doing most of the questioning ourselves. Ricky's like, I wasn't there. Incidentally, no fingerprints of Ricky Lacey's were ever found in that house. The whole thing was dusted. The bat was recovered. He didn't throw the bat away because it was his grandpa's bat. So he said he wiped it off and he set it back on the shelf where it was. And it's in evidence because they clearly found, he didn't clean it off that well. He goes into the story and he's literally telling us what happened, but he's putting it on Ricky Lacey. That he went there to get, or they went there is what he's saying, to get money for crack. Ricky becomes enraged, beats her, knocks her out, she lands on the bed. He goes and gets the bat, hits her in the head with the bat, fractures her skull. She rolls off the bed. They think she's dead. She's still moving a little bit. They wrap her up in the bedding of the bed.
So when you say they, is Ricky there? But Ricky's not.
That's what he's saying is happening.
Okay, that's what he's saying. Okay,
Right.
I'm sorry.
But Ricky's never. We never put any type of fingerprint. They collected DNA, and we were able to get DNA. I mean, that's
Right.
how.
He's telling the part.
phases.
He's just saying that it's him and Ricky, where it's just him. Actually, the story is just him.
Correct.
Okay.
He's speaking as.
He's speaking in plural.
Correct.
All right.
Us. But Ricky's doing all the dirt. He does
Gotcha.
admit though that they wrap her up, and she's moving around still. So they take a chair, like just a regular, grandma chair that you'd have in your bedroom. That's got 4 legs. It's elevated off the ground, and that she's wrapped up in this blanket. She's still moving around, and he puts the chair on top of her and sits on the chair until she stops moving. He says he does that.
Billy says he did that.
Mm-hmm. And then they bring her downstairs. They put her in the trunk, and then they go their separate ways. So the separate ways aspect is
This
is
is
Billy.
him speaking in plural. Okay. Yep.
Right.
He's confusing me too because
Well, when you again at the end we'll explain that this. There was a Netflix series done on this case, is I think which the reason we're talking about it is for.
Well, I think it's fascinating.
It is fascinating, but there's
Half this stuff wasn't told in the
there's a
Netflix
bunch of
thing. I
coppers.
watched the Netflix thing. Ain't none of this shit Netflix.
there's a bunch of coppers like all of us that have done stuff like this, cases like this. So not that there's I don't want to,
Right.
knock this as being an important case. It very much is. It's a death penalty case. I mean, they seek the death penalty on this guy. It's a huge deal. But in the singular version, there's a bunch of St. Louis cops that could sit down here and talk about cases.
But
like
I
this.
want you
Not a lot
to
of them are
if-
done on Netflix.
if you could talk about the interview, what he says about his father,
So
that part of the interview.
So he talks about his upbringing. He's Charles William Armentrout III. His father's name's the same thing. He goes by Bill. At an early age, Billy had been, I guess, abused by his dad.
Verbally abused. Correct?
Verbally abused. Dad was a drunk. Dad was a part owner in a bar, I believe. Dad comes home, and Billy shoots him as he's walking up the steps of their flat, and he's not even an adult at this point. Shoots him 6 times.
In the chest.
Oh yeah.
And the father lives.
Father lives long enough to today you'd probably go back and look at that as a homicide. I think by the time he dies, Billy's in prison for robbery.
Well, I think the father I'm going off the
Yeah.
Netflix
Yeah.
thing on this. Is the father blames himself for Billy shooting him, and then shoots himself out of guilt 4 months after that, and kills himself. Correct? Yeah.
Yeah,
As
that
far
was
as we know.
probably more significant
far as we know.
to the producers of the documentary than it was to
There's a little drama to it.
our investigation.
Adding drama.
And I've watched
That's
the
what I'm trying to
documentary,
do, is
but
add some
I didn't
drama, goddammit.
focus on
That's why Billy went to penitentiary the first time for shooting his father.
no for armed robbery.
His father did not press charges, so he's just like, that's okay.
Yeah,
Just like them.
just like Grandma taking him in, he's
Yeah.
he's got a much nicer family than he deserves. Not that Dad was maybe not the nicest guy. I don't know. Billy's got all kinds of problems. So the interview goes on. Back then, definitely not like it is now. That the second you walk into a interview room, that tapes rolling and all of that, or you don't flip a switch, and tapes start rolling in an interview room. There was no video back then. It was a big deal to have an audio tape confession.
Right.
Back in that day. This is significant enough that we want to get this put on video.
You had to call
this
the
is
video
Ruben. This is
division.
Ruben and Brian, but this is Ruben. He's like, let's do it. He's calling up the producer that from the Academy, and we go over and we shoot a live video interview of Armentrout. I'm not in that interview. There's only 2 people at the table during the time. Obviously, they're asking questions that had been previously asked. Brian McGlynn and Ruben are asking the questions, and Charles is answering them. And it's along the lines still of, he's got beyond firsthand knowledge of the incident. He still puts it all off on Ricky Lacey. We're able to determine at a fairly early stage of the investigation that there's nothing coming back linking Lacey to the crime. Lacey's never with them when they cash checks. Lacey's with them. He's at his house at the end. That's about all we're able to put Lacey in the mix.
Did this all go to trial?
So it goes to trial, which again is another circus and part of probably the funny story. So this
Hold
is
on,
where-
let me set this up. So now Billy goes to jail, and Billy's in jail. They got a solid case against Billy. Billy's done. These guys, you can imagine Bill McDonough, Brian McGlynn, Billy Qualls, and Reuben Heyman. They're tight. They tightened him up good. He's going to jail for this murder. But Billy decides, and we heard John Frank on an earlier show just talk about how criminals just sit in prison with nothing to do. So he files suit against Bill and Reuben, and he's going to sue them. So now his case, his murder case is going on, but now he kicks off a federal lawsuit against Billy and Reuben, and tell us a little bit about that lawsuit.
So it's that the number one lawsuit against cops is handcuffs, right? That you put handcuffs on, and that he's
Too tight?
too tight, and that
Cut off the circulation to his fingers?
That
Everybody needs their
Reuben
fingers.
Reuben got sued for $1 million. I got sued for $1 million. Neither one of us.
Who's
had
their lawyer? Who's his lawyer?
So he's his own lawyer. So that's where the funny part of the whole,
I love when people defend themselves,
of
brother.
the whole thing comes in.
That's some funny stuff.
That Billy decides, in this capital murder case, that he's going to defend himself, which is just a crazy. They wouldn't even let you do it now.
Right.
They assign you actually a legal team, and it's a very competent team if they seek capital charges against you. But I guess maybe they learned their lesson from things like this by letting this guy do this. So he's going to represent himself. He's adamant about doing it in the murder case. He's also petitioning in federal court in the lawsuit, but the judges decided that she's not doing anything with the federal suit until the state case is over with. So that one's put on hold, and he's saying I want attorneys provided to me in my lawsuit, and she's like, if you're competent enough to defend yourself and on a death penalty case, you're competent enough to defend yourself in my courtroom on this lawsuit. So
Actually, he's not a defendant now. Now he's the
plaintiff.
Yeah, you're the defendant. Come on now.
Right.
Were you scared?
I was all right. We had Mike Stelzer, when he worked for the now judge.
Yeah.
For the.
So you're in good hands
We're
there.
in good hands. So as our attorney in that setting,
I want to get to the point, and I'm sorry, but I love the point where you tell me that he depositions the whole group, and Bill's the first one to go because he thinks that Bill is the youngest detective, so he's going to get him first. And
so that was Nell. So the order of which Nell's agreed to us being.
Go ahead.
Of us being deposed was so Billy. So the depositions actually occur in the criminal case. He's defending himself.
Okay.
In the criminal case. So there's all kinds of arguments and legal arguments going back and forth. The circuit attorney that has the case is the famous Nels Moss. Tremendous attorney, tremendous Class A felony guy. Does homicides terrific. So he gets this case. It's a death penalty case. So they give it to their senior guys and gals. So Nels is the guy that's got this. Armentrout, it asked for and is allowed by the judge to do depositions. And at this point, he's brought into a room inside the city jail, and he's shackled. And Nels decides that the three people he's going to depose is Brian McGlynn, Reuben Heyman, and myself, the three that were there from the beginning. And Nels makes Nels just sits in on the deposition, obviously. And Nels makes the decision that, hey, look, we're going to have the least experienced guy go first, so that I can hear what kind of questions he's asking, and that's me. So
You're the guinea pig.
Well, I'm the guinea pig, and I think the way Nels put it was if there's a weak link in the chain, it's going to be the new guy. And I can see that argument,
Right?
Hey. For sure. I mean,
he's a seasoned
know.
investigator. He knows.
Brian and Ruben aren't no slouch.
Right.
I'll take third seat to those at that
Yep.
point in my life for
Yep.
sure. So you know, we go in and it's a regular deposition setting, but in strange things, because the person asking me questions is literally the defendant. So he's representing himself. He has at that point been assigned a public defender, but he told the public defender not to talk during the deposition.
Hey, he's running the show, baby.
And so you know, it's not being tape recorded, but there's a stenographer in there. There's two attorneys. The person that's I forgot the second attorney is a woman, sitting second seat with Nels, the public defender, myself, and Billy Armentrout, and a sheriff who's in there because, you know, he's in custody. So Billy's asking questions. He's talking about himself in third person, which is crazy to hear. So he's either calling himself by his name, or he's saying, you know, isn't it true that that Billy or Mr. Armentrout or something, and I would say, you mean you, right? And he'd stop. And he'd get a little flustered, and then he'd say it again, and I'd say, stop referring to yourself in third person. You mean you. You're talking about yourself. And he's getting angry. And I mean, you know, Nels has got a smirk on his face, like, you know,
You got him.
like, kid, keep going.
All right, you got him.
And
Tommy likes it.
I'm pushing this guy's buttons. It's crazy. He's you know, he doesn't have the he doesn't want the other guy to help him. And he's referring to himself in a way that I'm not going to let him. And it's a circus. I mean, it's just a circus. It just keeps going for about 4 or 5 minutes, and he jumps up and pounds on the table. And I jump up and throw him on the table and hold him there. And deposition's over.
He was a little hostile.
It's very hostile.
Okay.
And you know, again,
Right.
he didn't ask me how strong I was after that time. But you know, he's escorted out, put back in his cell. You know, Nels makes the comment, you know, like, well, that went well, type of thing, which was
with them for a price?
which was funny, and me, you know, feeling pretty funny because it was all lighthearted at that time, and I said like something to the effect of like weak link my ass, you know,
Yeah.
to Nels. It was funny. Yeah.
So I'm going to fast forward a little
Yeah.
bit. So this case drags on. Just a lot of
Did the guy get any money?
no, not that was actually, like he said, that was actually the criminal deposition.
There is
So-
there's no deposition. The case goes to trial. He's found guilty. He's sentenced to death. First before I've now moved
Yeah.
from Ruben to Randy Sassinger, another you know,
Guest on the
another
show.
podcast guest, and I'm riding with Ruben for a couple years. Ruben says with Randy. Randy says he wants to retire from the police department, and then I'd been being asked by Lieutenant O'Toole at the time to come down and play with you guys down there. It you know, we'd love to have you, type of thing. So
And mobile.
In mobile.
So now this
I
case
leave.
drags on.
It drags on all that time, and I leave. Ruben retires. McGlynn's still around, but I was with Ruben when we found the body, so I'm now designated as like the lead guy to testify.
You're going to be the prosecutor. You're going to be the testifier when
I
this
am.
thing goes down.
I am, but I'm in mobile reserve, and I remember listening to the radio one day. It hasn't gone to trial yet, and they put on Escape from Custody, and that, you don't hear that often, right? And they say Charles Armentrout has escaped from the city jail. He shimmied down the side on some sheets, and him and another dude bolt.
Charles
and
gone.
guess where he went?
3,200
Straight back
block
to Texas.
3,200 block of
3200
Texas. Here he goes.
He's picked up. He's picked up in less than 3 hours.
Billy's not smart.
Right.
Billy.
We don't even get the, like, we you know, we tell everybody that we can get on the radio, like, hey, let's go down there, because, you know, he'll be easy to spot.
That is a classic.
Yeah. So the trial goes. I testify for a long time. I mean, a day and a half. I'm on the stand.
How's Billy doing on his cross-examination?
Billy's gotten better. Where now he's referring to himself as the defendant. So
You kidding
I
me?
let him get away with that.
That's all right.
Right.
The
Well,
defendant.
and we don't want we don't want.
I prefer Billy though.
A big
if I was
circus.
in the courtroom, I would have rather watched him refer to himself as Billy.
Yeah, he was already having a hard enough time with the jury, and him killing his grandma.
They didn't look
I was
kindly
trying to
on
be as
Billy.
professional
I get
as
it.
possible at that point. It is court.
So it never came out that he shot his father in the trial, I guess.
No. Well, so he doesn't really put a defense on. He tries to call his mom as a character witness. His mom refuses to testify for him on his behalf, and things just go downhill from there. He's found guilty. The jury sentences him to death. He gets put on death row. The lawsuit in the federal side moves forward at that point. He's got the death sentence. So now he the appeals process begins for that, and part of the appeals is that he's arguing procedural things about the trial. But still, all the documents, which is what the federal judge, said that she wanted to be relative to that federal case, was that they be entered into now Judge Stelzer's case. He was going to be able to allow that. So the person representing us as the defendants was the city councilor's office.
And that was Stelzer at the time, correct?
Correct, Mike Stelzer. So anyway, as that moves forward, it's learned they pick a jury, the judge. They have a quick argument. I'm sitting at the defendant table with Ruben and Mike Stelzer, and the judge rules that all this is coming in to the trial. Mike gets to use all of it, everything. All the transcripts from the trial. And he's like, well, I don't want any of that in here. Honor.
Right.
I strongly.
That's not going to help me.
Right.
That's definitely not
It's
going to help me.
devastating to my case.
He was astute on that, though.
Right.
He was very astute on that particular.
No. So they let the he doesn't want to go forward after he knows that's because it's going to affect his appeal. He feels so the judge dismisses the case. Lets jury go. We leave. Fast forward. Man, it's probably nine years later or so. We hear that he's taken off a death row. And the idea that there's been all these arguments now based on not on our depositions, but on the deposition question itself and the funding for it. He wasn't allowed, I guess, in what a court of appeals would determine to be an adequate defense, even though it was himself, even though he was given all these warnings, even though there was hearing after hearing after hearing after hearing. This is a guy that's now been sentenced to death. Whatever everybody's opinions are, it varies on the death penalty, and the state, I think, stepped in. I don't know who it was at that point and said, look, we'll remove the death penalty from it if you plead guilty to first-degree murder as it sits, and with no death penalty, life without parole.
And at that time, like you said, it's 10, 12 years later. A lot of the witnesses are retired. I think the daughter had passed away.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of times it's easier to strike a deal than to try this all over again.
And it's expensive. It's expensive as
He is still alive.
All get go. So that's like the last I hear of Billy Armentrout.
Billy, we can't thank you enough for coming by.
You got it.
And it's
man.
been a long time.
This is
And
fun.
your daughter Maeve is in the crowd here. In the crowd, big crowd. We love Maeve, and Maeve's proud of her dad, and softball player, the whole bit. And but this was awesome, Bill, and thank you for coming by. And
It's good. You guys are doing a good thing here.
we appreciate that. And one last thing, always remember, communities that support law enforcement are safer places to live. Peace.